All right, we start today with an off-the-cuff remark by President Biden. You know, often I think you find the most revealing comments when the President of the United States goes off the cuff, right? When they take that script and they tear it up. We got a lot of revealing comments from President Obama, from President Clinton, mostly from President Trump. And mostly they end up being good or really giving you some insight into a president's thinking. Well, this weekend, President Biden went off the script as his last major speech in Europe. See if you can spot this moment. I'm going to play about a minute and a half's worth of this. See if you can spot the moment where the president went off the rails. And the reverberations this morning are enormous around the world.
Putin has the gall to say he's denazifying Ukraine. It's a lie. It's just cynical. He knows that. And it's also obscene. President Zelensky was democratically elected. He's Jewish. His father's family was wiped out in the Nazi Holocaust. And Putin has the audacity, like all our autocrats before him, to believe that might will make right. There's simply no justification or provocation for Russia's choice of war. It's an example of one of the oldest human impulses, using brute force and disinformation to satisfy a craving for absolute power and control. It's nothing less than a direct challenge to the rule-based international order established since the end of World War II. These international sanctions are sapping Russian strength, its ability to replenish its military, and its ability to project power. And it is Putin, it is Vladimir Putin who is to blame, period. Don't even think about moving on one single inch of NATO territory. We have sacred obligation. We have a sacred obligation under Article 5 to defend each and every inch of NATO territory with the full force of our collective power. In this battle, we need to be clear-eyed. This battle will not be won in days or months either. We need to steel ourselves for the long fight ahead. A dictator bent on rebuilding an empire will never erase a people's love for liberty. Brutality will never grind down their will to be free. Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refuse to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principles, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Well, you said the quiet part out loud, sir.
Yeah. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. So the White House this morning is on full damage control. So that was the moment off script. They said this was not part of his prepared remarks. And this, there are a lot of Western leaders who've come together over the past 24 hours to say this undid a lot of the work that we did here over the past few days.
I think, though, for just kind of colloquially speaking, some may wonder what's so bad about this, right? Like everyone kind of thinks it, everyone who in the West who feels like Russia's bad, Ukraine's good. So why can't you say this?
Because,
can you explain a little diplomacy?
Well, you just cannot have it's never been the position of the American government to push for a regime change publicly. Now, like, don't get me wrong.
Right.
See, we have all done this behind the scenes. It's absolutely been something that we've been doing for generations.
Absolutely.
Behind the scenes, whether in Cuba or in Libya, it doesn't matter. But to say it out loud is just something you don't say. So it's the hypocrisy of it at the end of the day.
Because we want to believe that all elections are independent, right? And that we do not meddle in placing leaders in foreign lands.
Right, that we don't meddle in your foreign elections. We don't meddle in who is leading your country. We don't get involved in that. but absolutely we do. So the
So then
hilarious part.
what we're parsing out words today is, does it matter? He just sort of said something that he got carried away about. He feels it, but that's not the official position of the United States. Well, now diplomats are scrambling to say that's not really what he meant. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is saying, well, no, the president just doesn't want this man to be empowered to continue attacking people.
This is my favorite parsing of this.
I think the president, the White House, made the point last night that, quite simply, President Putin cannot be empowered to wage war or engage in aggression against Ukraine or anyone else. As you know, and as you've heard us say repeatedly, we do not have a strategy of regime change in Russia or anywhere else for that matter.
What? Yes, we do.
What? So it's just empowering. We just don't want to empower him. That's what he was trying to say.
It's not that he can't be in power. It's that he can't be empowered by what he has done as of late.
So Emmanuel Macron coming out saying that this is a huge problem. Like this is we do not agree with this position. French President Emmanuel Macron, we don't believe in this, and we are worried about these sort of escalations now after this criticism from Biden of Vladimir Putin. This idea that we were just pushing for a ceasefire, right? And you have to wonder if this is all orchestrated because over the weekend, I don't know if you heard, there's a lot of like on Meet the Press and Chuck Todd and others. Basically, like, oh, we're talking about peace now. We're having a discussion about peace talks, and Chuck Todd saying, well, these peace talks, anytime you have peace talks are uncomfortable. And then he has senators sitting there saying, oh, yeah, it's uncomfortable when you have peace talks. Like, really? So it's uncomfortable for the Western media to talk about peace because God knows they want war. They love this endless coverage of war. CNN's ratings have been bonkers as a result of the war. They were in the toilet. They were in the toilet before the war, and now they're back. Now they're back being strong again thanks to this war in Ukraine.
Well, specifically, President Macron last week was shaking hands with President Biden, standing firm with NATO, posing for the picture, what have you. But now it seems that he's poised to speak with Vladimir Putin, president of Russia. So he is still willing to have conversations with Russia, even though, and so it's interesting because why did President Biden even bother to go to Europe? When, to show that like NATO has common ground, NATO has common goals, we're all in this together. President Biden will not meet with Putin, but it seems like some European leaders still hold out hope for diplomacy, which is why they're fine to pose for a picture with President Biden. But then when he leaves and he says something stupid, they're like, well, we're not going to do exactly what he says. We're still going to look out for our best interest. So it was interesting that was sort of the ending, that's the taste on which this European tour ends. I also think it's interesting. He's in Warsaw, Poland, and speaking in this like really highly polished place to refugees. Like, do they need that? Do they need a speech from a diplomat,
No, they need soup.
Right.
They need soup and blankets.
I'm kind of like, what is this place that refugees are sitting there like cold and huddled with their children and missing their husbands who are not allowed to leave, but they want to listen to the pontification of an American leader? I thought it was bizarre theater.
Yeah, and it was you have to know the staging involved in that, right?
Of course.
Look, you're going to be on camera. We're going to do some cutaway shots of you on camera, so we want you to look sad. Like we want to stage everything so that it looks meticulous. This is going to be in front of millions of people on camera. So we want you to look like you haven't eaten in a few days.
And when he says freedom,
I haven't eaten in a few days. I know, but we just want to make sure you look like you haven't eaten in a few days.
Right.
So we're not going to give you any food until after the speech.
Applause line is freedom.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.